5 more ways to treat people, okay? And remember, Jesus, we just sang about that great song, is the one who told us the golden rule: do to others whatever you would like them to do to you. That's what we're basing off how to treat other people. There's an old Chinese story about a young woman named Li Li who got married, and her and her husband lived with her mother-in-law. But she did not get along with her mother-in-law. She just thought her mother-in-law was so bad, so evil, obnoxious. She went to her doctor and told her the story of what was weighing her down, and said, "Do you have any slow poison?" And the doctor said, "Well, I've got some, and I'll give it to you, but you got to be careful, or if you just kill her suddenly, they're going to suspect you. You're going to have to act nice to her so they won't suspect you. Treat her like you would want to be treated every day, and they'll see that you weren't the one. They'll never suspect you killed." She said, "That's a good idea." So she went and she started giving her the poison, but then she started treating her nice, and they started getting along better. And pretty soon they became best friends because of how she treated and the mother-in-law treated her back. And she went back to the doctor and said, "You got to give me an antidote. I love her now. We're good friends." And he said, "I only gave you vitamins. The only poison was your attitude." And a lot of times we get what we give in life. And this includes how we treat people. Now let's think about it a little bit before we talk about this. Why is this important to talk about? How we treat people. Well, because we talk to people every day of our lives. We interact with people. That's part of, the second part of the Great Commandment, to love others. And so this affects your marriage, how you treat each other. If we did a better job at that, maybe there wouldn't be so many divorces and unhappy marriages. It affects how we treat our children, how our children treat our parents. It affects how we get along at work, how we get along at church. In every relationship, even somebody who maybe is a first-time waiter or waitress, how do we treat them may affect something in their whole life. This is so important, how we treat people. And the Bible is filled with things talking about it. So let's remember to treat people right. It can even affect our witness for Christ. I read an interesting news bit this week that an agnostic celebrity by the name of Adrienne Curry wrote an apology on social media to Kirk Cameron. If you know who Kirk Cameron is, he's an actor who's now a Christian. He was an atheist and then became a Christian, and very outspoken in his belief. She was the winner of the first season of America's Next Top Model, which Sandy won't let me watch, so I've never seen the show. Well, I've never seen the show anyhow. It's not that she didn't. So anyhow, she wrote this. She said, "I sneered at the mention of his name because my agnostic beliefs set me above all others in my infinite godless greatness. When I really asked myself, why did I do that? My only truthful answer is I was surrounded by godless people who fancied themselves better than anyone and everyone who had faith in anything beside their own selfish selves." Wow, she's laying it up there. She went on to say she harbored feelings against Cameron for some time until she decided to check some things online about him. She watched an interview and her perspective changed. Recently, she said on social media this week, "I watched an interview with a guy. He came off as very humble and incredibly likable. I watched a few more, loyal to his family, his wife, a family man, a former atheist who found some meaning in life. He just comes off as a good dude." And this is the thing. She said in the set she ran in, if you're not an atheist or a Muslim, you're evil, you're bad. And it's hard to find a portrayal of a Christian in a positive light anymore in movies and TV. They're usually hypocrites or evil or whatever. And so here it comes to in how they meet us in person. Do we want to fulfill what the others have said about us? We're evil and judgmental and mean, or do we want to come off like Kirk and treat people right? This is a witness for Christ and how we treat people. And that's just a good example. All right, 5 more ways. You want people to treat you with respect? Treat them with respect. I almost preach a whole message on this because I believe this is so important, and I probably will someday. I'm not going to do verses on every point, but this one I want to do verses because I like these so much. In 1 Timothy 5, never speak harshly to an older man. But appeal to him respectfully as you would your own father. Now this takes for granted, number one, that you treat your father respectfully. And when you treat any other man, you treat him respectfully like that was Dad. But it goes on. Talk to younger men as you would your own brothers. In other words, now this is not an excuse now where they're younger, so I'll talk down to them and mistreat them. No. Now they're as off, and you talk to them as if they're on an equal footing with you. And you talk respectfully to them. Talk to the older women, treat them like you would your mother. And younger women with all purity as you would your own sisters. Now it's great now. It was amazing 2,000 years ago. What's he saying? Treat everybody with respect. Men, women, older, younger, treat everybody with respect. Wow! That is such an important principle for us to get. Now I want to ask some questions because we can talk about this a lot. Thought questions for you. Agree or disagree? It's okay to insult or make fun of people as long as they don't hear it. How many agree with that? Yeah, some of you do, but you're saying I shouldn't agree with it in church. Yeah, wow. Well, you know, think about that. I'm not going to. These are thought questions for you, okay? Should we treat people with respect even when they're not around? I think there's one thing I'll say on this. A thought is, if we do treat them disrespectfully when they're not around, it may spill over when they aren't around. You'll think of them as that way, as somehow less than you. And yes, I have done this, but anyhow, you shouldn't. Number two, do you have to like a person in order to be respectful, or can you be respectful to somebody even if you don't really care for them? That's another thought. Because I see so many times today that I don't like that person, so I'll treat them like dirt, call them whatever I want. All right? Number three, should we show respect on the internet? Anybody here on social media? Yeah, some of you are. Some of you, my friend. Ever seen a disrespect on the social media? Yeah. Ever read an article? You know what some of the most fun things when you read some articles, look at the comment section. Wow. They're all over the place, and some of them are very disrespectful. You blankety blank, blank, what are you saying? What are you that for? So that's the question for us. Should we show respect on the internet? We don't see those people. Well, that's something for you to say. I say we need to do that. Should we show respect only to people like us? He's not white. I don't have to show respect to him. Is that right? Or if you're black, you're not black. I don't have to show respect to those white people. Is that right? Or they're some of the poor people. They're not in our neighborhood. They don't have a nice house. I don't have to show respect to them. Is that right? We all know the answer to that. If they're not as cool, if they're not as good looking, if they're not in our what we consider status, if they're from another country, if they spoke a different language, all of these are not reasons to show them no respect. Whether they like us or not, they're a human being created in the image of God. Amen? Amen. Well, we did answer that one, didn't we? Okay. I like this one. Do manners and civility show respect? I absolutely think they do, which is why I'm a big push for manners. Some people act like that was old-fashioned. You know what? Some things old-fashioned not bad. Now, not everything old was good, and not everything new is bad. But we need to look before we change a bunch of things and say, why was that there to begin with? Why is that the way we've been taught for thousands of years? And we should just suddenly change it. And I say that when you treat people with manners, thank you. Could I have some, please? Here, you go first. I think we just all of a sudden now we've pulled us closer together. And it's going to be harder to be evil to that person after you've done that and showed them some respect. And I absolutely believe that on the internet, in person, with people you don't even know, manners and civility are very, very important for our whole society, and woe unto us when they break down. All right? What's another one? Do you feel disrespected in these situations? All right? How about this one? Someone spending time on the phone while you're having lunch together. Now that sort of matters. Here's the thing. They get a text or call. I've just got to get this real quick. Yes, I'm having lunch. I'll talk to them. Excuse me. That's okay. But if they get on their phone playing games, checking email, look on the internet, or if somebody calls and they're just, yeah, and they spend like 10 or 15 minutes, I feel disrespected. We came to have lunch together. It's almost if we went to lunch, it's like you see a person comes in that they see in person and say, oh, hi Joe, good to see you. Hey, I'll see you later. Let's do lunch sometime. That's okay. But if he goes over and sits at Joe's table for 15 minutes, leave me by myself, I'm disrespected. You know what I'm saying? That's the way it can be. And in a day of more cell phone usage, it's all right. But let's not let it show disrespect by hanging on that when we're supposed to be FaceTime with the other person. At the end of your life, you're not going to be happy about all the FaceTime you had on the phone. You're going to be happy about the relationships you had. All right. I didn't mean to preach on the questions, but let's think about these. All right. Or if somebody calls you a derogatory name, well, that was not too hard, is it? Oh, I'm making fun of you in the group. I got ahead of myself. Again, it depends on if we're sort of making fun of ourselves. Hey, John, yeah, I remember that time, Bill, you did it. Yeah, Charlie, I know I did too. That's okay. But if it's just continual put down, we don't like that, do we? Now, the point of all this is, if we don't like it, if we feel disrespected, we shouldn't do that to others. It's real simple. Jesus made it simple. You don't like being made fun of, put down, don't do it to others. Or if you call you a derogatory name. You know, sometimes people do this in marriage. Honey, I love you with all my heart. I want you to be a person to share my whole life with. You're an idiot. Well, those two don't get together, do they? But how many people in marriage do that? Ouch. Or somebody's always ignoring your opinion. What do you think on that? Yes, no? Is that one more unbound? Or somebody's always interrupting you and talking over you. These are just thoughts. These are thought questions to get us thinking about, because this is the point of what Jesus said. You don't want to be treated that way, don't treat others that way. You want to be treated with respect, treat others with respect. And my last question is, have you ever had a person in your life who influenced you for good, and you think about them and you say, yeah, they showed me respect? Can you think of anybody who's influenced you for good in your life? Somebody was maybe a mentor or a parent or something. How did they treat you? And I thought about that. I thought about a college professor who spent time after class to just talk to us and listen to ours. And even if it was different, he listened to our viewpoint and didn't put us down about it. He influenced me for good. And I thought, what? Because he treated me with respect. I thought about my friend that I'm going to speak at his memorial service in a couple of weeks. Even as a young teenager with no money, no influence, he treated me with respect. And that's the reason I think that I was pulled to him, as with so many others, and he could influence me because he treated me, even as a young teenager, with respect, which, by the way, I think we should treat children with respect. I think we should treat teenagers with respect. I think we should treat young adults with respect. And, of course, everybody else. Treat everybody with respect. And my own mother was very influential. My wife is the most influential. And you know why? Because she treats me with respect. If she treated me with put down and sarcasm and belittled me, she would not influence me for good. I wouldn't even want to be around her. And we don't understand. We have a chance to influence other people for good and help them. Treat them with respect. All right, that's all that on that. That's number one. Number two, you want people to treat you with understanding. Treat them with understanding. Now, this is one complaint some people have about the golden rule. They say, well, you shouldn't treat them how you want to be treated. You should treat them how they want to be treated. And I think that goes with the idea. Jesus is saying, you want to be treated so that people know what you want. You treat them like that. I think it goes along with that you treat people with understanding. What is their personality may not be the same as yours, and you understand that. They're not going through life what you're going through right now. Maybe they're going through a terrible time. Maybe they just had a failure in their life, and they're embarrassed about it. So we understand why they're a little bit standoff. It's not anything to do with us. It's all to do with them. And we treat them accordingly because we understand what it's like to be embarrassed with a failure. We understand when they're grieving or whatever they're going through in life. And so we need to treat people with understanding and quit being so judgmental about everything. There's a story, an old story about a man with a lamb. I think we got a picture here. In a small town long ago, there lived a blind man. And when he went out at night, he knew the path of where he was going, but he always still carried a lighted lamp. He met a bunch of young guys one time as he's out on a night with a lighted lamp. This is before the days of electricity. And they said, who is that? Oh, that's the blind guy. Hey man, what are you doing carrying a lamp? You can't even see. I can't even see. He's carrying a lighted lamp. What are you doing? And he says, well, I know I can't see. And this is not for me. This is for you. I can get around though I'm blind, but I don't want you to accidentally bump into me and hurt you and hurt me. So I carry the lamp for you. And they looked at each other and they were suddenly ashamed. And they apologized. So many times we judge people when we don't know what we're talking about. And we need to have more understanding. We want to be treated that way. We should treat people with understanding. Number three, you want people to treat you with kindness. Kindness. So we should treat people with kindness. This is a true story. A guy named Kent Nerburn writes blogs about everything in his life, and he told a story about when he was younger. He drove a taxi cab in the evening shift, the night shift. He went one time and he got a call in the middle of the night to go pick up somebody. Usually, if it's in this part of town, he said, it would honk the horn. If nobody showed up, he'd leave. But he felt he better not do that. He went and knocked on the door, and he heard an elderly woman's voice. I'll be with you in a minute. And then she opened the door and said, can you help me? And he saw she had one suitcase she was dragging on the floor. She said, if you can carry that, and I got to have a few minutes alone here. He said, okay. He took her suitcase out, and then he went to help her because she was in her 80s. And he put his arm there and took her to the cab, and she gave the address to where to go, and she said, well, could you drive through downtown to get there? And he said, well, that's out of the way. Well, I'm going to the hospice. The doctor told me don't have long. All my family's gone. I just wanted to look at some of the places I used to live. And so he reached over and he turned the meter off, and he spent the whole night taking her around everywhere she used to live. And she told a story about how her husband lived here and what they did here in this place and all the happy memories. It was finally getting daylight. We pulled up to the hospice. And she said, you've been so kind. Why have you been so kind to me? He says, I always felt I ought to treat somebody like my mother, an older woman, because that's the way I want somebody to treat my mother. She says, you've made it a special time for an old lady. And she walked into the hospice not long to live. He said, looking back on my life, I think that may have been one of the most important things I ever did. In her last days, to show her kindness and memory of good life. We don't know what we can do with a simple kindness and what it'll matter in somebody else's life. And so it is better, we want people to treat us with kindness. God help us to treat others with kindness. Anybody got, this is the only interaction I have today, but did anybody got a time you think of when somebody treated you with kindness and made a difference? Small, don't have to be gigantic. I know I didn't give you a warning. Well, let's think about it. I remember, I thought about it as I was thinking about asking this question, and I hadn't thought about this in maybe 50 years. But when I was a teenager, 16 years old, we were really, didn't have much money at that time. I got a job on the Atwood Improving Ground. And during the summer, it was 8 to 4 regular time, but I didn't have a car. I didn't have a way to get there. We had a neighbor, an older guy, lived down the street, and he took me to work every day. Just dropped me off in front of the commissary, offered him money, never took a dollar. Then we had a house fire, we moved away later on. I never saw him again. He's dead now, I'm sure. But I thought back 50 years ago, that made a difference. I got to a job where then I bought a car because a guy offered me a ride for nothing. This is simple kindness. The world's a lot better with that, isn't it? If we would just have some simple kindnesses every day. And we like that. Then let's do that to others. Number 4. You want people to give you the benefit of the doubt. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Let me give you an example. You text somebody and they don't text you back immediately. Now some of us older folks, that bugs us. Or we call and they don't answer. We email and we don't get an answer. And we think, well, what are they doing? Not even answering me back. But consider, maybe they're in the middle of something. Maybe they didn't get your text. Maybe their phone didn't beep, which has happened to me. I had it 2 days later. Oh, I got a text. Give people the benefit of the doubt. It may not be an evil deed or just disrespect. To understand that things happen with people. We need to give people the benefit of the doubt. And, you know, or if the email is short in its reply, they must be mad. How do we know that? We judge everything. And what if I see one thing that's happening in America now, we're so easily offended. All of us are getting too easily offended. My motto has been throughout church life, make them work at offended me. If they give me a little simple thing, it could be on the line, you're going to have to try harder to offend me. Now there's been a couple that have really, they've succeeded. But I made them work for it. Don't let people offend you easy like that. Be tougher than that, with your hide but soft in your heart. We need to give people the benefit of the doubt. We just don't know what's going on in their lives that's making a difference. If they come into church and pass right by you, say hello, and they pass right by you, they must be mad at me. Or they were focused on somebody else and didn't even notice you. Or they just had a fight with her husband or wife and they're back, you know. Let's give people the benefit of the doubt. Now, if they won't say hello to you 6 weeks in a row, you might need to talk to them. But let's give people the benefit of the doubt. We want that ourselves. And number 5, you like it when people smile, other people smile, then smile. Now, I've got to say, you're a bunch of smilers. Okay? This is a good bunch of smilers right here. And I like that. But smiling, I think, is important. Here's some things about smiling. Smiling makes you more approachable. When somebody smiles, you feel like, oh, they must be warm and kind, and I can approach and go to them. Whereas when somebody, What do you want? Nothing. Makes a difference. Smiling enhances your disposition. The more you smile, the happier you are. And the more you make other people happy or feel better. Just by smiling. What a simple thing that smiling is. Smiling makes you more attractive. You want to be better looking? It's easier to lose weight. Just smile. Smiling improves health. They have proven that when you smile, endorphins are released that bring down your stress, your heart rate, take care of pain more, and help your body just when you smile. It can even be a fake smile. They did a study with people, they thought they were doing something else, but they put chopsticks in their mouth, they go this, this, and this. And when they held their mouth in a fake smile, their stress went down, their heart rate down, endorphins came in. Your body is hooked up. Smile, good. I feel better already. So let's, work. And again, you're already a bunch of good smilers, but maybe some of you guys are not. I don't know if you're watching. Start smiling. Smiling is good for you. It's good for us. And as this thing, I like this, I think this picture, of all the things you wear, your expression is the most important. It's not how much you pay for your shoes or all this, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying your expression is the most important. So, somebody wrote this, smiles are contagious, just like yawns, so smile and start an epidemic. So, you like to smile, then smile to others. All right. Last week I had 6 important words to end up with. Now I want 6 important actions. Number 6, ask God for help every day. This is so important. How you treat other people is so important, and you need help. Because so many times as a human, we think only about ourselves, we don't think about anybody else. I dare you, I double dog dare you to ask God every morning to help you in how you treat people, and after a few weeks you don't tell where there's a difference. I know there is in my life. If I start the day with prayer or do not, there's a difference in how I act. Ask God, today God, thank you for a good day. Good morning, I'm glad to see you. It's good to be alive today. Help me to treat other people right today. Help me to treat my wife right, my kids right, my fellow workers right. Simple prayer, ask God for help, and see if it don't make a difference. I believe it will. 5, remember the impact you have. Remember the impact you have, and you do. You have an impact on people's lives. Like I say, sometimes it's even bumping into a person we'll never see again, and you can have an impact in a small way, or even a big way. But we have an impact. How we treat other people impacts their lives, whether they can have hope and joy and encouragement to go on, or whether they can have discouragement and sadness and feel like nobody cares. And that can depend on how you and me treat people. Number 4, think of your wants. And you say, why that? Because if you think, well, I like it when this happens, oh, I guess I ought to do that to others. I like it when this happens, well, I guess I ought to do that. So you think of what you like, and then go out and do that to other people. 3, grow in grace. There's a verse in the Bible, Peter, I believe, says, grow in the knowledge and the grace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Now, I want us to all grow in knowledge. I've been reading the Bible for 50 years, and every day, and I still learn something. Grow in knowledge, but also grow in grace. Grow in grace. We ought to be more graceful people now than we were 10 years ago, than we were 5 years ago. More people of grace to be with, to consider the other person, to make them feel better, to help them, to how we deal with things, to be more forgiving and encouraging. We be more people of grace. Grow in grace. 2 words, own it. You did it, you own it. Now, I had a wonderful thing. I had 4 children. And for 20 years, I could blame them for everything. And then they gone. They left. And I started blaming Sandy. She said, you ain't blaming me. I didn't. So she won't even take it. Won't even let me blame her. So own it. When you do it, own it. You know what, people, and I, so many times I think they'll think of me less, but you know what I see when people own it, I think of them better. When they own it, oh yeah, I messed up there, sorry. Yeah, that was on me. I shouldn't have done that. Own it. And number one of the biggest things in relationships, I think, is forbear. Forbear. Now, that's a word we don't use much, so I should have put this on the screen, but I did get the dictionary definition. It says to be patient or self-controlled when subject to annoyance or provocation. Don't let yourself go because they did something you didn't like. You put up with it. They're putting up with you. You put up with them. All of us could use in our homes, in our workplaces, in our churches, if we just had more forbearance. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a time to confront something. Again, I'm not saying that. But there's a whole lot of little things we just need to be quiet, suck it up, and go on. Put up with annoyance without jumping back in their face. Have some more patience and just understand that nobody's perfect, including me. People had to put up with me. Let's put up with everybody else. I'll close with this quick true story. A woman wrote in her later years about this story as a child, which she remembered all those years and made an impact on her. Her dad came home from work, and the mother had fixed that night toast and eggs and stuff. And the toast she got so good, the toast was burnt. But she noticed Dad sit down, put butter on the toast, and ate it and said, "How's your day, honey?" Didn't say anything about the toast. Instead, "Thank you, dear, for that great meal." And then they went that into her room and he put her to bed that night. She said, "Daddy, you didn't even say anything about the burnt toast." Honey, your mom works hard. She's got a lot to do. And nobody's perfect. A little burnt toast is good for all of us. And we just need to understand that everybody's going to do some things we don't like. We just got to live with it. And she said, "I remember that now as an older lady when I was a girl. The important lesson my dad told me. Eat the burnt toast and don't say a word. Forbear. Sometimes they're a little grouchy. Sometimes you're a little grouchy. Forbear.